Let us together respectfully invite Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche to enter. All right, please be seated, everyone. Venerable Khenpo Sodargye, distinguished guests, and dear students, good afternoon to all of you. Today, for everyone here, this is a very joyful, very auspicious, and very blessed day, because the school's MBA Education Center has once again respectfully invited Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche to come and teach us. Khenpo has come from afar, sparing no effort, and we deeply cherish this opportunity. In the words of our Dean Geng, Khenpo has a very wonderful connection with our university and our School of Economics and Management. First, let us welcome the young and talented Dean of Nanjing Agricultural University's School of Economics and Management, Professor Geng Xianhui, the new generation Dean, to give the welcoming speech. Welcome, Dean Geng.
Respected guests and our MBA students here, good afternoon, everyone. We're very honored today to have invited Khenpo Sodargye, a great Khenpo from Laranga 5 Sciences Buddhist Academy in Sertar, equivalent to our professor rank, to give us a lecture on traditional culture. The topic is wealth and the value of life. Now let us welcome Khenpo to give us this lecture.
All right. Khenpo, before you begin your teaching, I'd like to ask you a question on behalf of the students. This question arises because when we arranged this lecture's topic, wealth and the value of life, some students asked whether the teacher coming to give this class would be someone from an insurance company or perhaps a financial advisor. So before you begin your teaching, I'd like to ask Khenpo, in your daily life, do you manage your finances? For example, buying stocks, savings, purchasing insurance, and so on. Thank you, Khenpo.
Financial management.
Everyone has heard, Khenpo also manages finances in his daily life. Now, let us welcome this great master of Buddhist studies to interpret wealth and the value of life from the perspective of classical, most ancient culture, Buddhism. Everyone, please welcome him.
Respected Dean Geng, respected teachers and students, I'm very happy today to have this opportunity to exchange ideas with all of you. Just now, Professor New asked the first question, whether I manage finances. In reality, there are many kinds of wealth, spiritual wealth and material wealth. Within spiritual wealth, there's also ordinary spiritual level wealth, and there's the even higher wealth of noble beings. For example, in Buddhism, there are the 7 noble riches: faith, discipline, learning, generosity, conscience, shame, and wisdom. 7 in total. Many people really want to manage this kind of wealth, so it increases more and more, but indeed it's also quite difficult. However, with this wealth there's only gain, no risk. Much of today's financial management, the more you gain, the greater the risk. With low-risk financial management, many people aren't willing to invest. Everyone understands this situation very clearly, and today all of you here together are using this afternoon time to study together. I myself came to the Agricultural University last year. This should be my second visit, and I'm also very interested. Of course, from one perspective, I should say I'm not really qualified to give a lecture before the students and teachers of the Agricultural University because I've never even been a student at an agricultural university. So speaking here, one could completely say this is teaching fish to swim. But from another perspective, including today's topic of wealth and the value of life, I think we can exchange ideas with each other. Perhaps some of my small suggestions might remind you of something or inspire some thought or draw your attention. I myself also very much hope to receive your questions and guidance. In this way, we can all have a time of mutual learning. In reality, each person's every day, every hour, every minute, every second is extremely precious because these moments form our lives. But when we use our lives for learning, whether in ancient times or modern times, it's always very worthwhile. Nowadays, many people don't use their lives for learning, contemplation, and wisdom. This is extremely regrettable. So I think from one perspective, our exchange this afternoon may perhaps bring a little benefit to someone. From my perspective, whether we look at wealth from traditional culture or from Buddhist culture, from any perspective, in reality, wealth itself, money itself, there's nothing particularly bad about it. Some people say money is like a poisonous snake. If you touch it, you'll be destroyed. Some Buddhists even think money shouldn't be touched at all. Once you touch money, it will bring you endless harm. So some people think that in Buddhism, monastics should all wear tattered clothes to be truly monastic. Only those who don't earn money are true Buddhists. But actually, this isn't so. From Buddhism's own perspective, as long as you have merit and can use reasonable, appropriate wealth, the more the better. If your wealth is used incorrectly or unreasonably, then in reality, even if it's very little, it shouldn't be used. Therefore, Buddhism's view on wealth is actually about not falling into extremes, not falling into the extreme of affluence, nor into the extreme of poverty. What's most crucial is inner richness. That is to say, what we now call contentment and few desires. In Buddhism, there's a very famous sutra called the Buddha's Last Bequeathed Teachings. What does the Buddha's Last Bequeathed Teachings say? One who is content, though lying on the ground, still dwells in peace. One who is not content, though dwelling in heaven, is still not satisfied. This means that a person with contentment and few desires, even if they don't have much money, lives very happily. A discontented person, even if they live like gods dwelling in heaven, is still not satisfied. Also, the discontented though rich are poor, the contented though poor are rich. That is to say, a dissatisfied person, even if very wealthy, in reality lives as if in poverty. And though a contented person may live in relative poverty because of inner satisfaction, they attain a very rich life. This is Buddhism's basic understanding or positioning regarding ordinary wealth. This is quite similar to our traditional culture. What does the Analects say? Wealth and honor are what people desire. Poverty and lowliness are what people detest. Everyone also knows this saying. From the perspective of traditional culture and Confucian thought, in reality, wealth and honor are what everyone aspires to, admires, and wants to obtain, and poverty and lowliness are what no one wants to obtain. Everyone should, from one perspective, reasonably pursue wealth, including Xunzi, who once said, righteousness and profit are what people both have. That is to say, righteousness and profit. Righteousness refers to morality. Morality and profit. These are actually two things that people aspire to and seek. Without wealth, I'm afraid there's no way to live in this world. But even if one has wealth, if a person lacks morality, then this wealth may not necessarily bring genuine benefit to you personally or to others. Therefore, from the positioning of wealth, from the perspective of traditional culture, one should actually have a relatively balanced attitude toward wealth. This is the first point I want to make. Then the second point I'd like to make is about our values. Most people probably judge whether a person is successful mainly by this, whether they have money. If they have quite a lot, then this person is very successful. If they don't have much, it means this person is not successful. I believe that although we talk about success or values of life from a broader perspective, there are actually many different points of pursuit. For example, Feng Zikais once wrote in one of his books of cartoons that human life has 3 floors. The first floor is material life, the second floor is spiritual life, the third floor is the life of the soul. Human life should consist of these 3 kinds of wealth: material, spiritual, and of the soul. But most people nowadays probably pursue the material, and those who seek spiritual fulfillment aren't especially numerous. As for the level of the soul, including deeper aspects of religion and philosophy, those who seek to live with this understanding may not be very many. We can see this even now. I don't know what the situation is like at your agricultural university, but at many universities in China, as soon as you mention finance, economics, accounting, majors related to money, they're extremely popular, with many people signing up. As for history, religion, politics, and philosophy, and so on, relatively fewer people pursue these. So many teachers in the process of choosing have no choice but to give up their previous specialties. I once met a teacher who had a doctorate in religion and taught religion very well. But he said, in China, it's very difficult for me to find students majoring in religion. Many students have gone to study finance. What's the main reason for studying finance? On one hand, many university students themselves need employment. When seeking employment, it's difficult without money, so it has some relation to one's own aspirations. On another hand, it probably also relates to the guidance you receive from your parents and friends, because they'll all say, quickly choose a better major. where your monthly salary is especially high, or where you can earn a lot of money per month. But actually, in the West and in Europe, in some places, it's not like this. It's completely different. There, including religion, history, and philosophy, there are especially many students in philosophy departments. Are there any in finance? In recent years, I've heard there are more of them. Now, the West is also especially practical. The pursuit of money, the craving for money, is getting more and more serious. This point is very different from past Western values. Everyone here should think about this. Do human values exist beyond money? If living in this world, only those with money are successful and those without money are unsuccessful, then what difference is there between us and some animals? If, apart from material life, human beings cannot enjoy spiritual life, I think this should be quite frightening for human beings. In such a situation, people's greed may become heavier and heavier. I once read a story called The Snake's Tale. It says there's a kind of snake with very strong greed. After eating all the food around it, it finally starts eating its own tail, eating and eating, until finally its entire body becomes one piece. It eats itself completely. We humans are also like this. Apart from ourselves, we keep craving all resources, constantly craving. Then in the end, apart from our own greed, there may be nothing left. If human greed grows more and more, expanding madly, then actually nothing will ever give you a sense of satisfaction. Think about it. If a person has a monthly salary of 10,000 yuan, they might think it's not enough. 120,000 yuan a year won't do. Yesterday someone said, now, if you don't invest, it won't work. If you keep all your lifetime savings in the bank, you might not even be able to buy a bathroom. So you should find a way to invest. Otherwise, even though there's danger, we know clearly there's danger. If you don't do this, it won't work. So many things, on one hand, are indeed quite practical. Living in this world, many aspects of life are quite practical. But on the other hand, our values are also touching us because we have a comparing mind. Some of our classmates have already bought houses. For example, now many MBA students, when they go out, often all their topics are about money. Have you bought a house? Have you bought a car? What kind of car? This car isn't good enough. You should get a better one. This house isn't good enough. It's too small. It should be more comfortable. The garden should be changed. It keeps going higher and higher. If this continues, then truly human desires may be endless. So if you earn 10,000 yuan a month, you'll think it's too little. 20,000 yuan is right. 20,000 a month, over 200,000 a year. Then if you have 20,000 yuan, it's still not enough. Over 200,000 a year can't buy much now. It should be 30,000, 100,000, 1 million. 1 million isn't enough. The other day, I saw in a book about a brand of handbag called Hermes, supposedly over 21 million yuan, one bag with many diamonds on it. But they say this isn't the best one. The best one should be over 30 million. So over 30 million for one bag. If a person carries a bag worth over 30 million, then her clothing must certainly be even more expensive than this bag. Her car, her house. Otherwise, if you only have such an expensive bag and everything else is very low grade, that probably wouldn't be realistic. So at a certain point, our desires may keep growing and our values are entirely placed on money. We can only enjoy living on this first floor of material life. We haven't reached the second floor, haven't reached the third floor. At such a time, people may live rather tiredly. If it were in other foreign countries, indeed, I've been to some places, but their comparing mindset is not quite the same as ours. For example, there are some street performers who play instruments or sing on the streets. These people feel this kind of life is what's called a freelance profession. They feel it's very good. If I'm busy all day with a boss, there's no difference from prison. I'd rather be a beggar on the street, be a homeless person, be like this. Actually, I'm very comfortable. We heard that there was a Chinese person who knew a homeless person on the street. In the end, he found him a job at a restaurant, saying, Here I can arrange a salary for you every month. Come over. Finally, he said, do you think my choice is wrong? I'm so comfortable like this. Don't try to restrict me. So some of these people, many people can be said to have their own values, and their own values, to a certain extent, they don't think that earning more and more money maximizes their benefit. It's not like that. Because sometimes having more money and the benefits they gain may, in some sense, be opposite. In some sense, wealth for them inflates desires. Ultimately, it brings great worry, confusion, and suffering to one's own life, including many people now. Why do we say this? Because their greed is growing. Sometimes we see online, including the phenomenon of some corrupt officials, We think, so much money, why use it like this? But in reality, if we ourselves don't have self-discipline, if we haven't received good education and virtuous guidance from a young age, it's very possible that when you go out into society, in the end, you'll go along with all kinds of people with great greed. The ancients had a saying, follow bad people, become a bad person. Follow good people, become a good person. Similarly, we can say, if you follow people with great greed, you'll also become greedy. If you run with people who love money, you'll also become someone who loves money. After this, we very possibly, in some sense, what exactly should our values be? Actually, people have many interests. For example, here, some like philosophy, some like literature and art. In different fields, they want to seek the courses and research they like. But because of this society, because of this reality, when you're forced into such a situation, you have no choice but to devote all your energy entirely to making money. But the way of making money is somewhat different from the past. No matter which city in Han Chinese areas, including small townships in Tibetan areas, many young people are crazily trying to make money, desperately striving to realize their dreams. Their dream is to live a very perfect life. And through some behaviors and some reports, they feel, as long as my luck is good, I should earn a lot of money. The way to make money, they seem unwilling to work, unwilling to give effort. Without giving effort, they want to become suddenly wealthy overnight. Such a wish is actually not very reasonable. It doesn't conform to natural laws. We should use wisdom to make judgments. When using wisdom to make judgments, you discover that the values you originally thought of are actually narrow-minded and ignorant. We often speak of the frog in the well, a frog in a small water well. It thinks, apart from my well, there's no greater ocean in the world. Later, when it comes out, it's frightened to death. It's very scared. Similarly, right now, we're in a certain circle. We feel that the values life pursues now, so-called material life, are the most important, the most advanced, so we pursue them. Finally, if we look at the whole world, at some people in the spiritual realm, we realize that what we pursue, apart from external money, there's still a lot of room for living, space for living, methods for living. These methods may perhaps bring us more reliable happiness. So now, whether it's teachers or students, in a sense, human greed is increasingly rising. At this time, there's no time, space, or energy for learning. There's no time or energy for research. I've been to many universities. At many universities, teachers compete for research projects. The competition is very intense. Some teachers have gone to trade stocks. Some teachers do some business outside. Truly, there are some teachers who are very dedicated in their teaching. But among teachers, the so-called engineers of the human soul, there are also a very small number of teachers who've been influenced. Students needn't even be mentioned. During their student years, this very simple, pure life, they also don't study well every day. All day long, they're just thinking. In school, you are a student. From the literal meaning of student, you're not a business person nor a stock trader. You should be someone who wholeheartedly completes their studies, but perhaps your own name has already lost its meaning. Every day thinking, today the stocks fell, today the stocks rose. Just constantly thinking like this. When you think like this, your mind is already hung up on this. In the end, during your entire 4 years of university or 5 years of university, you've completely wasted it. It's very frightening. On this point, I think in positioning our life values, there's also value in exploring, groping, or contemplating. This is the second point I want to make about life values. The third point I want to say is our wealth needs wisdom as its companion. Wealth without wisdom becomes a disaster. Wealth with wisdom becomes wealth beneficial to oneself and others. What is wealth with wisdom like? It should mean using all money in very good ways, but also not being particularly attached to money yourself. Previously in Buddhism, there was a story compiled by Bodhisattva Ashvaghosha called the Sutra of the Great Adornment. In the Sutra of the Great Adornment, there was an upasaka, a lay practitioner. Someone asked him, "Your friend, a Brahmin, practices austerities all day long. He eats very poorly, wears tattered clothes. He should have the best practice, the best contentment, and few desires, right?" Then this Buddhist said, "Not necessarily. If you don't believe it, ask him yourself." Finally, that person went to ask the Brahmin, "Are you practicing austerities now? What's the purpose of your austerities?" Finally, he said, "The purpose of my austerities is that in the future, I'll become a king and obtain glory and wealth." Finally, this Buddhist told him, "Actually, you see, some people appear to practice austerities, but in reality, their purpose may not be certain. Better to look at King Bimbisara of our country. King Bimbisara was a very remarkable great king. Although gold, silver, and treasures all flowed abundantly to him, he himself didn't grasp at them. And what he should give, what he should share, he did all these things. So sometimes we see that when wealth is accompanied by wisdom, it's actually not necessarily harmful to you. Some time ago, many people were saying online that Dabe Temple wears what true monastics wear, while Shaolin Temple is completely different. Which is real, which is fake? They've been arguing online. Just now, we teachers were also saying that actually some information online isn't necessarily very correct. Truly qualified people with certain cultivation don't necessarily spend all day gossiping with people online. The majority of people, over 80%, may not have very high levels. Some have this tendency to show off, we can say this. Now, some people think that in Buddhism, wearing good clothes is unreasonable, driving good cars, having resplendent temples is unreasonable. Actually, not necessarily. If you don't have attachment in this respect, don't have illegal means, if it's reasonable and legal, in Buddhist discipline, there's a text called the Vinaya Pitaka. The Vinaya Pitaka says that even if you enjoy gold, silver, treasures, and many, many possessions, Buddhism's own view allows this. But if you have attachment and illegal behavior, even if you use a small amount of wealth, it's actually unreasonable. Therefore, many people's inherent values, Buddhists probably wear very tattered clothes. That's a true Buddhist. If we study Buddhism, we must definitely become poor. Actually, it's not like this. Studying Buddhism, one can completely manage finances, right? Just now, who asked that? The teacher already left, right? Oh, over there. How does Buddhism manage finances? Buddhism's method of financial management. I'll tell you, I just now remembered to answer you. In the Sigalovada Sutra, Buddhism generally divides one's wealth into 4 portions. One portion is for your own living expenses. Another portion should be saved in case some other things happen. And the other 2 portions can be used for profit and can be used for financial management. Also, the Samyukta Agama also says this. I once quoted this scriptural evidence at China's University of Finance and Economics. So if Buddhism has necessity, I think this is still very good. Now, some people's financial management is like this. They invest all their money. If their own money isn't enough, they borrow other people's money. Finally, when it falls, you've lost a lot. All your own money is gone. Friends' money is also gone. Relatives' money is also gone. How frightening like this. If according to Buddhism's view, you divide it into 4 portions, half is used on yourself, counted as stable wealth. No matter how bad the situation is, I myself still keep 2 portions. The other half of the wealth, for example, if you have 1 million, don't touch 500,000. Of the 500,000, 250,000 is for living expenses. 250,000 you keep saving, otherwise in case something happens. If there's illness in your family, or if the overall situation isn't good, in that case, you'll have no recourse. If you use 500,000 for financial management, perhaps the 500,000 can become 1 million. It comes out. At this time, quickly, when it comes out, you need to know how to run. Otherwise, today it rose to 1 million. Now my 500,000 has become 1 million. With 1 million, maybe tomorrow it'll be 2 million, and so on. As a result, the next day it plummets. Overnight, it's all gone. The original principle is gone. Friends' money is gone. It's too frightening. Now I see that truly those with merit and luck, a minority of people get rich. The majority don't have very ideal results. No matter which country you go to, they all say, the economy isn't good now. But now, network intelligence is very powerful. Some clever people, through very attractive means and methods, at the beginning give you a lot of profit. Really very reliable, no problem. Finally, slowly, one day, just like pyramid schemes now, all at once, although it's legal, but within some legal things, there are also many tricks. Finally, we very much hope, do university students manage finances? I can't say. But in the future, university students will definitely like financial management. As the ancients said, the superior person loves wealth, but acquires it through proper means. Managing finances also with relatively reasonable methods may be a bit better. This is what I want to say. Indeed, overall, according to Buddhism's view, we can't be too greedy. If we're too greedy, it may be unfavorable to the individual. Like Empress Dowager Cixi in the past, for those of you who understand history, I also enjoy reading some history books. Empress Dowager Cixi, in terms of her status and power, should be the most formidable one in Chinese history. At that time, she alone controlled several emperors. Although she didn't become an actual empress, much power was in her hands. But her greatest flaw was that she was an extremely corrupt official. We can say it like this. She took all the nation's money, including what she ate. For each meal she ate every day, how much silver, you've all seen the history, including fruit, if eating watermelon, the watermelon inside. I often, when eating watermelon, think about what Empress Dowager Cixi liked most inside. Because some books say that for each watermelon meal, the parts extracted from over 360 watermelons were used for just one meal for her. Finally, look at when she died. How much silver was buried with her. In the end, her corpse was desecrated by many people. Actually, such a manner, whether for an individual or for oneself, isn't very good. Therefore, we should become people with pure hearts and few desires, not excessively greedy. If you're not especially greedy, many merits will come naturally. Perhaps you're still not satisfied, feeling, as I just said, perhaps you still need this much or that much. But the fourth point I want to say is that we humans, as people, should still leave a bit of imperfection, seek incompleteness, either lacking a bit in relationships or lacking a bit in money or lacking a bit in knowledge. Previously, when I traveled abroad with one of my gurus, once at a restaurant, the bowl I was eating from had a chip. I said I wanted to change it. My guru said, "Why change it?" I said, "This is inauspicious. Look, there's a chip here." My guru said, "It's fine. Actually, sometimes in life, being slightly imperfect is beneficial for oneself." From then on, now, whenever I go to any restaurant, especially some small eateries, when the cup is chipped, the bowl is chipped, I never change them. Previously, I was very repulsed. This is very inauspicious. In our Tibetan folk tradition, there's a saying, if a bowl has a chip, it's inauspicious. Every time I saw one, this trip may be inauspicious. From then on, I thought, indeed, it's also correct. If life is too perfect, fullness invites loss. There will certainly be some harm. In Buddhism, we speak of auspiciousness and inauspiciousness. Auspiciousness and inauspiciousness are actually interdependent, coming together. Within auspiciousness, there's also inauspiciousness. Within inauspiciousness, there's also auspiciousness. For example, a person, today, their relationships with family are very good, wealth flows abundantly at home, their status is very good. But what you can't see is a kind of inauspicious thing constantly hidden behind. And one person, it seems he doesn't earn much money, his relationships also aren't very good, plus recently his business is also especially bad, or his health isn't good, etc. Many imperfections, but at this time, in reality, within this, a kind of auspicious good fortune is also constantly brewing. I once posted on Weibo, I've forgotten when it was, I said, when life is going smoothly, don't be complacent because at that time your merit is being consumed. When you repeatedly encounter setbacks, don't be discouraged either, because at that time, your negative karma is being exhausted. Actually, each blessing in a person's life, every corner of life, has its success and failure, has places worth exploring. Many people especially like things to be rather perfect. My body should be healthy and strong. My mood should be happy and joyful. My life should be perfect in every way. My family should be complete and harmonious. I should enjoy domestic bliss, etc. There are many slogans, such blessings. But in reality, in actual life, is it really like this? It's not like this either. Today we may be very happy, but tomorrow, perhaps invisibly, a kind of suffering will come. This suffering, now many people can't bear it, especially some university students, because perhaps your life wisdom hasn't yet matured. You receive all kinds of stimulation, including some who've had heartbreak, some who've lost jobs, some who've dropped out of school, all these kinds of losses. You have no way to accept them. At this time, some get depression, some choose suicide, some begin all kinds of violent behaviors. It's very frightening, extremely frightening. So, I think many people need to understand what life really is. Previously, the master of Chinese studies, Ji Shanlin, wrote, "Imperfection is life." I once bought a book at the airport in Lanzhou or somewhere. Some people ask, why do you say this? I said, no matter who is in the world, there's no one whose entire life is completely perfect, completely complete, completely happy. There's no such thing. Actually, what he said is also correct. In a sense, life is an especially winding, twisting road. It's just that some people's journey is slightly smoother. And each stage in life treated as the best moment for one's own practice, the best opportunity to deal with it. A few years ago, I went to Taiwan. At that time, several of us went to Alishan together. Before I became a monastic, I used to like singing the song about Alishan. At that time, I didn't see the girls of Alishan. Now it seems there aren't any. Probably those born in the 90s and 80s don't know. When we were studying, we sang that every day. It was just like reciting. When we went, the trees of Alishan were very lush and green, especially good. But many of the tree roots had holes in them. Many tourists felt that treating the holes as something especially good. Some treated them like caves, going inside to do retreat. Some treated them as, originally, looking at the tree roots below, all perforated, very imperfect. At that time, I thought in my heart, actually, life is also like this. When each of us encounters different setbacks, treat them as very good learning, as a very good experience. Perhaps in your life, they'll be very much worth cherishing, valuable and meaningful. I don't know if you've studied the I Ching. In the I Ching, it's called misfortune and fortune depend on each other. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other. Yin and yang depend on each other. That is to say, within our misfortune, there's fortune. Within fortune, there's misfortune. Some people may be especially honored today. They earned a lot of money today. Everyone rejoices. Overnight, he earned this much. But don't be too happy. Be careful. Otherwise, this money also may not have come into your hands for no reason. If you've contributed nothing and several million came for no reason, then probably there's still karmic retribution behind it. You need to be careful. Sometimes we'll suffer some losses, wrongly accused by others for no reason, stimulated by others. I really can't bear it. I was so good to others. I see now many young people sometimes on the phone say this too. Once I went to a university, there was a girl making a phone call. I was so good to you. You treated me like this and that. In front of you, I'm going to die. I'm going to commit suicide. At that time, as a monastic, I curiously listened to her phone call. She couldn't see me at all. It seemed when her mood was especially low, her emotions excessively agitated in her eyes. Actually, I'm rather conspicuous. Generally, when I, as a monastic, go to universities, many university students look at me as if seeing an oddity, immediately staring with very strange eyes. But that day, I saw this person's emotions were very turbulent when making the phone call. Actually, at such times, we ourselves should be stable. I see some young people. Indeed, the future is the era of young people, but the future is also very hopeful and also very worrying. The other day, some people asked me, "Why have you been frequently going to universities lately?" I said, "Actually, I'm full of hope for university students, but also very worried. I very much want to see if I can slightly change some people's lives. Because when we are young, if we encounter the true direction of life, it may be necessary. For example, when we talk about life philosophy, Confucius once said in the Analects, "At 15, I set my heart on learning. At 30, I stood firm. At 40, I had no doubts. At 50, I knew the mandate of heaven. At 60, my ear was attuned. At 70, I could follow my heart's desire without overstepping bounds." He said then that from age 15 to 30, one must learn life's truths and must definitely complete one's education. At 30, one must find one's foothold in life, must definitely find one's true life values. At 40, one won't have confusion about life. At 50, one knows the laws of all things, karmic cause and effect, and these causes and conditions. At 60, one won't be swayed by external voices. At 70, whatever you want to do won't violate the rules. But it's also hard to say. Now, many 70-year-old men, some elderly people, often violate rules quite a lot too. You see, now Trump, at 70 years old, he came to power. According to Confucius's words, I don't know what to say. In that case, Trump can do anything without problem. He won't violate rules. But it's also hard to say how his 8 years will turn out. Everyone is discussing it. In here, there's one phrase. At 50, I knew the mandate of heaven. That is to say, when a person reaches 50, they understand cause and effect. In other traditional interpretations of the Analects, it says at 50, one doesn't make big mistakes. Actually, I don't hope for this. I very much hope that many university students understand karmic cause and effect at 20. Otherwise, if you wait until 50 to know the mandate of heaven, it's a bit late. Although Confucius's view says that if at one's mature age, at 50, one may naturally know what human destiny is really like, what human life is really like, many truths of predestination one may understand at that time. This is the meaning. But we hope many university students, before reaching 60, before reaching 50, can you understand your own life values? If you understand, if your learning, your knowledge, your virtue are all very complete, then everything in this life should be lived very happily. Virtue carries all things. Tsinghua University's motto is, "Great virtue carries all things." In our Buddhist studies, we also often say, diligent effort is not as good as accumulating virtue. Diligent effort is not as good as accumulating a bit of merit. Great virtue carries all things means if your virtue is deep, then you can carry all things. You can have any amount of merit. Otherwise, some people have no wisdom, merit, or talent at all. If you want to earn big money, do big things. Indeed, there's a certain difficulty. Many things in the world are completely the same as the laws of all things in nature. Therefore, the last thing we want to tell everyone here today is life needs wisdom as its companion, and this wisdom must match our merit and virtue. Finally, I'd like to share with everyone here His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche placed great emphasis on character, whether for monastics or lay people. For lay people, whether they have faith or not, all are fine. But each of us should have virtuous character. This was very important to him. In his writings, there's a very famous work called Drops of Nectarlike Advice. In Drops of Nectarlike Advice, it says we should have 7 aspects as human beings. The 7 aspects mentioned. First is a kind heart. Whether as a teacher, as a student, as any person, it's best if our hearts don't have the intention to benefit oneself at others' expense, to harm others, very evil-hearted. Sometimes we want to swallow others' wealth, we want to kill others. Many people, especially evil-hearted, truly cannot be called kind in character. The first is a kind heart. The second is called without deceit. In this world, although in this era, indeed, if you are slightly not deceitful, I'm afraid many people will swallow you up. There's this danger. But in reality, we should be virtuous people, upright people. We shouldn't deliberately deceive others, lure others, harm others. The second is without deceit. The third point is that a person's temperament should be good, harmoniously getting along with people. Some teachers may have bad relationships with any teacher. Some students have bad relationships with any student. This is called bad temperament. Many people fear this person. Are there such people? For example, in a class there are certain individuals whom everyone fears, everyone dislikes. There are such people. This is called bad temperament. If a person has good temperament, everyone likes them. Teachers especially like them. Students also like them. Among students, male students, female students. And any person in society especially likes this person. This shows this person has good temperament. Good temperament is very important. Now, some of us, including some monastics at our Buddhist academy who studied in England, America, including Canada, and returned, at first when they came, I was very envious. Wow, they're from such and such university in England, such and such university in Germany. When they ordained, in the future among them, some individuals have quite good temperament. Some individuals may have been influenced by certain Western individualistic ideologies. After going abroad, it seems everything depends on oneself. Many have rather strong personalities and don't listen to teachers' words. When the teacher is teaching above, their attitude below is very poor. I said, if I were a Western teacher, it'd be a bit unbearable. If the attitude isn't good at all, then there's no way to teach. They're also not filial to their parents. There are such situations. So having good temperament is very important. This is the third point. The fourth is called having foresight, not being short-sighted. As a person, one should think rather far ahead, not just over small matters, only seeing what's before one's eyes. Actually, what kind of people? Perhaps some students' age and wisdom haven't yet matured. For you to look very far ahead is a bit difficult. But generally, for teachers and others, your current situation is like this. But in a few more years, in another 20 years, will it still be like this? So whether doing business or teaching, doing many things should have a far-sighted wisdom. This is the fourth. The fifth is steadiness. A person should be steady. Steadiness we divide into physical steadiness, verbal steadiness, and mental steadiness. Physically, no matter where you are, don't be especially... Now, some enterprises hire some university students. They come today and run away tomorrow. This student runs over there again. After 3 days of work, doesn't want to do it anymore and runs away again. This is called being unsteady. Today, switching to this industry and tomorrow switching to that industry. If the mind is unsteady, emotions are very volatile. When happy, like a celestial being, laughing especially brightly. When suffering, crying especially miserably like a demon. People around are especially frightened. So happy one moment then, fluctuating especially greatly. Now people's minds are unsteady. It's especially frightening. Then verbal unsteadiness. What is verbal unsteadiness? It's words that don't count. One moment speaking especially beautifully, the next moment completely changed already. Nothing is controlled. Didn't you already say? So what if I said it? What if I said it? Now, some people truly aren't responsible for their own words. There are also such people. So we must be steady people. This is the fifth. The sixth is tolerance. In this world, a person should have a tolerant heart. With tolerance, you yourself also live very happily. Even if anything happens before your eyes, you can accommodate it. If there are some who are especially narrow-minded, haggling over every penny, nothing works. When you drive, don't drive on this side, slightly like this. When you eat, can't eat like this, must eat like this. Very small matters. I see some ladies excessively interfering in others' lives. Sometimes, for example, when you're eating, each bite can't be too big nor too small. Sometimes children are especially repulsed. Can't do things like this. You should do it slightly like this. This way also won't work. All things, of course, caring is very important, but within caring, sometimes the heart should be more tolerant. Whether it happens to oneself or to others, the heart has a kind of tolerance. The seventh is wisdom. There's worldly wisdom and transcendent wisdom. Worldly wisdom is conducting oneself, dealing with people and matters. Whether it's your professional wisdom or general worldly wisdom, wisdom is very important. People without wisdom can't move a step. Everyone knows this. Transcendent wisdom, perhaps in Buddhist practice, including deeper research in humanistic education, some deeper achievements beyond our cosmic phenomena. Including now, among many university students, there's research into deeper sciences. Actually, this is also a kind of transcendent wisdom. We delve into these areas. If one possesses these 7 qualities, this is called virtuous character. I also hope everyone here possesses virtuous character. This is our life values. As for the possession of wealth, we need both worldly material wealth and, even more importantly, spiritual wealth. If our spiritual wealth is especially rich, when a person lives in this world, no matter in what kind of environment, doing what kind of things, they will always be very happy, always living a blessed and fulfilled life. All right? Thank you, everyone.